An inspirational fiction story. Have you ever had one of those moments that felt impossible to explain? A moment when the world became strangely quiet, your heart beat a little faster, and you sensed that life was preparing something unexpected just beyond the horizon. Perhaps it wasn't a coincidence at all. Maybe it was simply the beginning of a new chapter. Last night, while the stars stretched across the sky like tiny lanterns, something shifted, not because destiny suddenly changed, but because someone, somewhere, finally understood a truth they had been avoiding for far too long. They realized that people like you are rare, not because you're perfect, not because you've never made mistakes, but because you've continued moving forward even after disappointment, heartbreak, uncertainty, and countless unanswered questions. Most people never see the battles you've fought within yourself. They see your smile, they hear your laughter, they notice your calm personality, yet they have no idea how many nights you questioned whether your dreams would ever come true. They don't know how often you chose kindness instead of revenge. They don't know how many opportunities you sacrificed because your heart refused to settle for something that wasn't right. That quiet strength is what makes you different, and somewhere, someone has finally begun to recognize it. For a long time, they believed they had plenty of time. They convinced themselves that meaningful connections could wait. Career first, comfort first, distractions first. Tomorrow would always arrive, until one unexpected moment changed everything. Maybe it was a familiar song. Maybe it was watching the sunset alone. Maybe it was hearing someone describe the kind of person they truly admired. Whatever the reason, it awakened a realization they could no longer ignore. The qualities they had been searching for weren't found in popularity, appearances, or temporary excitement. They were found in sincerity, in loyalty, in patience, in quiet confidence, in someone whose character shines brighter than first impressions. And suddenly, they began wondering whether they had already crossed paths with someone like that. That question stayed with them. It followed them throughout the day. It echoed in the silence of the evening. Instead of feeling peaceful, they felt restless, not because they had found all the answers, because they finally started asking the right questions. What truly matters? Who brings genuine peace? What kind of future do I actually want? Those questions changed everything. Meanwhile, your own journey continued. You woke up, you handled responsibilities, you smiled at familiar faces, you kept working toward your goals, unaware that life was quietly arranging pieces you couldn't yet see. That's often how meaningful change begins, not with fireworks, not with dramatic announcements, but with small moments that slowly reshape an ordinary life into an extraordinary story. Sometimes growth happens in silence. Sometimes healing happens without applause. Sometimes the best chapters begin before anyone realizes the story has changed. The person who may one day become your partner isn't suddenly transformed overnight. Growth rarely works that way. Instead, they are learning. Learning to communicate honestly, learning to admit mistakes, learning that trust cannot be rushed, learning that love isn't about finding someone flawless, it's about becoming someone capable of building something lasting. Every lesson brings them closer to the future they hope to create. At the same time, your own experiences have been shaping you. Every disappointment taught resilience, Every delay strengthened patience, every unexpected turn revealed abilities you didn't know you possessed. Looking back one day, you'll realize that what felt like detours were actually preparation. Life wasn't keeping you from something wonderful. It was preparing you to recognize it when it finally arrived, real. Connection isn't built on dramatic promises, it grows through everyday choices, choosing honesty, choosing respect, choosing forgiveness when appropriate, choosing encouragement instead of criticism. Choosing to celebrate each other's victories. Those simple decisions create relationships that endure far beyond moments of excitement. Perhaps that's the greatest surprise of all. The future isn't waiting for perfection, it's waiting for readiness. And readiness isn't measured by having everything figured out, it's measured by your willingness to continue growing, learning, and believing that meaningful relationships are built one day at a time. So if you've ever wondered whether your story is moving too slowly, remember this: the strongest foundations are rarely built in a hurry. The brightest mornings begin after the darkest nights, and some of life's most beautiful chapters arrive quietly, almost unnoticed, until one day you look back and realize everything changed in ways you never expected. This isn't the end of the story, it's only the beginning. Morning arrived like any other, the streets filled with familiar sounds. Coffee cups warmed tired hands. Phones buzzed with notifications. People hurried through routines that looked almost identical to the day before, yet beneath the ordinary surface, change was already unfolding. The remarkable thing about life is that its greatest turning points rarely announce themselves. They don't always arrive with dramatic speeches or unmistakable signs. More often, they begin with a single decision, a choice to become kinder, more honest, more patient, or more courageous than the day before. On the other side of town, someone was thinking deeply about the kind of future they wanted to build. For years, they had chased things that seemed important: success, recognition, constant activity. They believed that if they collected enough achievements, happiness would naturally follow. But experience had taught a different lesson. Accomplishments could fill a resume. They couldn't always fill an empty heart. That realization wasn't painful because they had failed. It was powerful because they had finally discovered what truly mattered. They began paying closer attention to the people around them, noticing who listened instead of waiting to speak, who kept promises even when no one was watching, who encouraged others without expecting applause, who remained steady during difficult seasons. Again and again, their thoughts returned to the same conclusion: the qualities that last are often the quiet ones. Meanwhile, your own life continued to move forward. You handled responsibilities that few people noticed. You kept showing up, even when progress felt slow. You celebrated small victories. You learned from unexpected setbacks. None of those moments seemed extraordinary at the time, yet each one was quietly shaping the person you were becoming. Growth often happens this way. It doesn't always feel exciting. Sometimes it feels repetitive. Sometimes it feels invisible, but invisible progress is still progress. A tree spends years strengthening its roots before its tallest branches reach toward the sky. In much the same way, character is built through ordinary days that eventually create extraordinary lives. the future has a remarkable habit of connecting moments that once seemed unrelated. A conversation today may become the reason for an opportunity months from now. A lesson learned during a difficult season may one day help someone else through theirs. The kindness you offer a stranger may inspire them to extend kindness to another. Small choices have a way of traveling farther than we imagine. The person who may someday share your future was beginning to understand this. Instead of asking, "What can I gain?" they started asking, "What kind of person do I want to become?" That single question changed everything. It influenced the way they spoke, the way they treated family, the way they approached friendships, the way they viewed love, not as something to possess, but as something to nurture with patience, respect, and trust. The transformation wasn't immediate. There were moments of uncertainty. Old habits occasionally resurfaced. Some days felt easier than others, but every sincere effort moved them one step closer to becoming the person they hoped to be. And perhaps that's one of life's most encouraging truths. No one is expected to become perfect overnight. Meaningful change happens one decision at a time, one conversation, one apology, one act of forgiveness, one choice to keep going. As evening approached, the sky slowly exchanged bright blue for shades of gold and violet. The world seemed to slow its pace. It was the kind of evening that invited reflection, a reminder that every sunset quietly promises another sunrise. Every ending carries the possibility of a new beginning. Some people spend years searching for extraordinary moments while overlooking the beauty already surrounding them. Yet genuine joy often lives in simple places: a heartfelt conversation, a handwritten note, a shared laugh, a moment of understanding after disagreement. The comfort of knowing someone accepts both your strengths and your imperfections. Those moments cannot always be planned, but they can be appreciated. As the night grew quieter, one thought remained clear: the future is not created by chance alone. It is shaped by the countless choices we make every single day. Every kind word matters. Every honest action matters. Every opportunity to grow matters. And every season, whether joyful or challenging, adds another page to the story that is still being written. Perhaps that's why hope continues to endure, not because every path is easy, but because every new day offers another opportunity to become the person you aspire to be. The next chapter has not yet been written. Its pages remain blank, filled not with certainty, but with possibility. And sometimes, possibility is the greatest gift of all. Days passed, and life continued at its familiar pace. The world didn't suddenly become quieter, nor did every question receive an immediate answer. The routines of everyday life remained: work to finish, conversations to have, responsibilities to meet, and dreams that still required patience. Yet beneath those ordinary moments, something meaningful was taking shape. The future is often built this way, not through one dramatic event, but through countless small decisions that seem insignificant at the time. Every choice to remain hopeful instead of discouraged, every decision to be honest when it would have been easier to stay silent, every act of kindness that asks for nothing in return, these are the moments that quietly shape a person's character. The individual who may one day become your life partner was beginning to notice this truth more clearly than ever before. They no longer admired people only for their achievements. Instead, they found themselves respecting those who stayed. Humble after success, those who remained patient during uncertainty, those who treated strangers with the same kindness they offered close friends. The more they reflected, the more they realized that genuine strength isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention, it simply remains steady, even when circumstances become difficult. That realization changed the way they looked at the world. They became more thoughtful with their words, more intentional with their time, more grateful for the people who had quietly supported them through life's challenges. And somewhere within those reflections, they wondered about the person they hoped to meet someday. Not with unrealistic expectations, not searching for perfection, but hoping to find someone who valued honesty, compassion, and mutual respect, someone willing to grow alongside them. At the same time, your own story continued unfolding in ways that may have seemed ordinary. Perhaps there were moments when you questioned whether your efforts mattered. Perhaps you wondered if your quiet perseverance would ever lead to something meaningful. Those questions are natural. Everyone experiences seasons of uncertainty, yet progress often happens long before it becomes visible. Consider a gardener planting seeds in early spring. For weeks, nothing appears above the soil. From the outside, it may seem as though nothing is happening, but beneath the surface, roots are growing stronger every single day. Eventually, those hidden roots support flowers that brighten an entire garden. Life often works in much the same way. The patience you practice today prepares you for opportunities tomorrow. The lessons you learn through disappointment help you appreciate future joys more deeply. The compassion you develop during difficult seasons becomes a source of encouragement for others. Nothing meaningful is wasted. Even challenges can become teachers. Even delays can become preparation. Even unanswered questions can inspire growth. Meanwhile, the future remained unwritten. No one could predict every conversation. No one could foresee every opportunity. No one could know exactly when two paths might eventually cross, and perhaps that's part of life's beauty. The unknown isn't always something to fear. Sometimes it's an invitation to remain open to possibilities that haven't yet appeared. As another evening settled over the horizon, countless lights began shining across homes, neighborhoods, and cities. Behind every illuminated window was another story. Someone celebrating, someone healing, someone beginning again, someone quietly believing that tomorrow could be better than today. Hope has always traveled this way, from one heart to another, from one act of kindness to the next. It rarely arrives with great fanfare. Instead, it grows steadily through ordinary people choosing extraordinary compassion. If there is one lesson worth remembering, it is this: the future isn't defined by fear, it is shaped by faith in better days, by consistent effort, and by the willingness to become the kind of person who makes the world a little brighter for everyone they meet. Perhaps, somewhere ahead, your journey and another person's journey will naturally intersect, not because life follows a perfect script, but because both of you continued growing into the people you were meant to become. Until then, keep moving forward, keep learning, keep showing kindness even when no one is watching, keep believing that meaningful relationships are built on trust, patience, and shared values rather than perfect circumstances. The story is still unfolding. The next page has yet to be written, and sometimes, the most unforgettable chapters begin quietly, one ordinary day at a time. Another sunrise arrived, carrying with it the quiet promise of a brand new day. Nothing about the morning seemed extraordinary. The sky slowly brightened. Birds greeted the dawn with familiar songs. The world awakened one person at a time, each carrying hopes, responsibilities, and dreams that only they fully understood. Life has a remarkable way of hiding its greatest blessings inside ordinary moments. Most people expect meaningful change to arrive with dramatic announcements. Instead, it often begins in silence, a new perspective, a wiser decision, a conversation that lingers in the heart long after it ends. The person whose path may someday cross yours was beginning to recognize these quiet transformations. They noticed that peace could not be purchased. Trust could not be rushed. Respect could not be demanded. Each had to be earned through consistent actions over time. That understanding changed the way they viewed relationships. They no longer searched for someone to complete them. Instead, they focused on becoming someone capable of building a healthy, lasting partnership. They learned that love grows strongest where honesty is welcomed, patience is practiced, and both people encourage each other's dreams. These lessons weren't always easy. There were moments when old habits tempted them to take shortcuts. There were times when disappointment whispered that genuine connections were too rare, yet every challenge strengthened their resolve. With each passing day, they became a little more thoughtful, a little more compassionate, a little more grateful. Growth is rarely dramatic. It usually appears in subtle ways, choosing to listen instead of interrupting, choosing forgiveness instead of resentment, choosing understanding instead of quick judgment. Small decisions repeated consistently create extraordinary character. Meanwhile, your own journey continued. Perhaps there were days when you felt unnoticed, days when your effort seemed invisible, days when progress felt slower than you hoped, yet every step still mattered, every lesson still counted. Even when no one applauded your perseverance, it was shaping your future. Think about a lighthouse standing along a rocky shoreline. It doesn't chase ships. It doesn't compete with the waves. It simply remains faithful to its purpose, shining steadily through calm nights and fierce storms alike. Because of that consistency, travelers find direction. Character works much the same way. The people who inspire others most are often those who quietly remain true to their values regardless of changing circumstances. They don't need constant recognition. Their integrity speaks long before their words do. As the weeks unfolded, something else became increasingly clear. Life is less about perfect timing and more about faithful preparation. Many opportunities appear suddenly. Preparation, however, happens gradually. The confidence to embrace tomorrow is built by the choices made today. Every challenge overcome becomes experience. Every mistake acknowledged becomes wisdom. Every act of kindness strengthens the heart. One evening, as golden sunlight faded into a sky painted with shades of crimson and deep blue, there was a moment of quiet reflection. The future remained unknown. Yet for the first time in a long while, that uncertainty no longer felt frightening. Instead, it felt hopeful. After all, the unwritten pages of life hold possibilities that even our greatest imaginations cannot fully predict. Perhaps the greatest gift isn't knowing exactly what tomorrow will bring. Perhaps it's developing the courage to welcome tomorrow with confidence, to believe that every season, whether joyful or difficult, can teach something valuable, to trust that meaningful relationships are strengthened by shared respect, honest communication, and mutual encouragement, to remember that lasting happiness isn't discovered all at once, it's built day by day, conversation by conversation, choice by choice. If two people continue growing with humility, kindness, and patience, their paths may one day cross naturally. When that happens, they won't simply celebrate finding each other, they'll appreciate everything that prepared them for that moment, every lesson, every delay, every unexpected turn. Looking back, those experiences will no longer seem like obstacles, they will appear as stepping stones leading toward a future built on understanding rather than illusion. So continue investing in your character, continue choosing hope over fear, continue believing that kindness is never wasted, continue becoming the person you would be grateful to meet. The story is far from over. Every sunrise brings another opportunity, every ordinary day carries hidden potential, every chapter contributes to the larger story that is still unfolding, and sometimes, when you least expect it, you'll look back and realize that the quiet days you once overlooked were the very days that shaped the most meaningful part of your journey. The next chapter